the live that I did with Dr. Payne to go to, so that y'all will know more about it. He had the opportunity to play live on Facebook, which was absolutely amazing. So definitely excited about that. Divine and Tishema, listen to you both. Like, what are your expectations for this coming October? Like, what are you expecting for?
Me personally, to be honest with you, is getting the opportunity to meet other people who love God. That's always like a big thing for me. Like getting a chance to meet other people who love God the way I love God. Because sometimes you get so stuck in where you go to worship and you just think that only they love God. But no, there's other people who love God just as much as you may love God. So that's always a plus for me, meeting other people who love God, and then meeting other people who do different styles of ministering the gospel, getting a chance to connect with them as well. So that's another thing for me as well. I look at the whole opportunity that is being presented to me, to be honest with you, as a win-win all around the board, because I'm getting a chance to meet people I would have never met anywhere. I'm getting a chance to share my music with people who may have never even heard my music or heard my name. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God for the moment, and for the fellowship and for the relationships that will be built. Because I never know. I might get to write a song with one of you. I might get to collab on one of your songs. So it just, so I'm grateful for the opportunity and the relationships that will be built.
Absolutely. Listen, my girl Kenya C. Willis, she says it all the time. Networking is key. Listen, she says that nonstop. She always says that networking is key. Come with a mindset to network, because you just don't know. You're a new artist in a new city to new people. So some of you all have not had the opportunity to minister in Tampa yet. So this is an opportunity for you all to connect with new artists, with new individuals that are definitely going to be in the building on Friday night. So definitely I am excited about that. Divine, let me hear from you. What about yourself?
Um, I'm really not sure because I don't want to expect one thing. I'm just really going want to be in the house to expect God to show up in a major way. I've been ministering in Tampa or around the Tampa area with my dad. If anybody knows my dad, Apostle Jail Cash, you should know me. But it's going to be different doing it alone. So I am expecting God to show up in a major way. I'm looking for great relationships, great instructions on how to move forward with the ministry that God has entrusted me with. Long as I get the tools and the stuff that I need outside of what my dad has already given me, I know everything else is going to be a win-win. So I'm just expecting of everything. I'll just say it like that. Not one in particular thing. I'm going to just say expecting of everything. So whatever takes place in Jesus' name is what's going to happen.
Listen, I absolutely love it. Listen, when I say, and that's the thing. Come expecting everything that God has for that night. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be an awesome night that we're going to have. Like, real talk, it's going to be an awesome. This is a question for everyone. Has there been a place to where you have went that is the hardest that you felt like it was to minister somewhere? And I'll give y'all an example. For me, there was some times where I had to go certain places and it was so tough for me to minister somewhere. Have you had that opportunity? Have you had that feeling of where you went somewhere to minister? It was like it was so tough to minister somewhere. Like, anybody ever felt that?
I can say for me, one of the hardest places for me to minister, actually, because of what I do, which is Christian hip hop, is a church. I have kind of a mental block because I'm also a pastor as well, and a pastor who coming into Christian hip hop was told that I needed to choose one or the other. I can't do both, and so I know that there's still some mentalities out there where Christian hip hop is not really respected in churches or allowed in churches, and so whenever I go into that situation, I'm almost leery. Like, how are they going to receive what it is that God's gifted me with? And for the most part, it's a mental challenge for me, so it's hard for me, but it's not been as ill received as I thought initially. So I'm grateful to God that people are coming over and are understanding that it is ministry, as much ministry as singing and other things, other different ministries as well. But just me getting over that in my mind and in my heart, that's been a challenge, honestly.
I got you. Anyone else? I know. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've had some experiences leading worship where it was kind of difficult for me, just because sometimes when you go to I've always come from a non-denominational background, and for the first time leading worship at like a Baptist church, like it's a completely different culture shock, and so I could be, jumping around and just really moving freely in my worship to the Lord, just because that's how I express myself. But then, that's not what everyone's used to. And so I did a lot of learning over the years, especially being under my dad's covering. He would always tell me, like, you can't always look at what the people are doing. That's not your job. Your job is to do what you're called to do, and to lead the room and point them to Jesus, and allow the Holy Spirit to move in them in however it is. So if they're sitting down, if their arms are crossed, or, whatever it is, you can't look at that and say, oh, well, God's not doing anything, because you don't know that. God could just be moving in their heart in a different way. Not everybody has to worship the same way. And so that's a continuous learning process for me, even to this day. Leading worship, I have to always keep my mind on the Lord, because I can easily look out and get those feelings of I'm not good enough, when it's not about me. It's about the Lord.
Absolutely. Kenya C. Willer, and when she said this, and this said it best: let your lyrics bless the house. Everyone will not be receptive, but it will bless many. Absolutely a true statement. Everybody, and here's the crazy part, and I'll say this: even when it comes, and I know my brother Holloman can contest to this as well, even with quartet, there are a lot of people that may not like quartet, but one thing about it is, again, like what Kenya said, let the lyrics bless the house, because that's what's going to really be important, regardless of anything. A lot of people may not like the style of music, but when it comes down to the lyrics of the song, they're going to remember the lyrics more than anything. So it's definitely important. Anyone else want to answer that question?
Yeah, just to go off of what you were saying, quartet. I've just found out, throughout the years period, even, prior to having a group, a quartet crowd can be one of the toughest crowds. I mean, I'm talking about lovers of quartet. They can be a tough crowd at times. But growing, and as the young lady was saying, it is easy to, get discouraged when you kind of see that the crowd is not responding to you. But what I have learned over time is that just because they're not saying anything, a lot of times they may just be listening, and taking in what you're saying. But for me, myself, it can be 200 people in the audience. I'm still working on accepting it, but I just ask now before I perform. I ask God to, if it's just one person that, that is reached and that's touched, that's good enough for me. So just living with that. But as far as the question itself, I would definitely say toughest place is just any any given moment in a quartet setting.
Gotcha. So here's a question for everybody, and I want to hear from everybody. What has been the hardest thing about being an artist? Not with the church, not with singing at church, but just the hardest thing itself while being an artist.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Being accepted. And I'm gonna tell you why I say that. Because Gerard, you know my daddy.
Correct.
Everybody on here may not know my daddy, and if you do, kudos to you. But I say being accepted because my dad is a heavy hitter. He cuts no corners. But I've always been confident standing alongside him doing ministry. But now being in the position that I am in, having to step aside from what I'm used to and getting used to something, the new normal, where I got to hit the stage, I got to do what I know God has gifted me to do, but without the person that made me confident in doing it. So being accepted is kind of like my issue. I'm kind of iffy, like, should I do it, or is this really God telling me to do it, or anything like that. And I know we got a thing coming up on October 4th. And listen, when I tell y'all, my nerves has been like, because I mean, from day one, I'm not gonna lie to you, I am real as you see. But when it comes to saying, okay, Devon, you got to do this. As soon as Gerard told me you have been accepted to do that, I was like, wait, what? I didn't agree to do this. I just wanted to put the song out, let it hit the airwaves, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I done been questioning God every day since. And when I tell you the acceptance of people, but then I have to remember, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it for the people? Or are you doing it for what God has called you to do? And that's the difference. When you know your why, then you won't have to worry about being accepted or not being accepted. So there you go.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I'll piggyback off of what she's saying. I myself as well, for those who don't know, for over 27 years under my Uncle AJ, and it was, definitely for me, my favorite singer of all time, and, one of the best to do it, and just stepping out of the light of AJ's nephew, but also just trying to remember everything in that he's taught me throughout the years, and do it to the highest level possible. The most difficult part is in the beginning, having him here to even talk to him after a concert, before a concert, when I was, maybe a little nervous about it. And with him being now gone, it was definitely an adjustment. Not having that, I'm going to say that comfort zone to, your whatever, and not having that, it has been such a huge adjustment. But the one thing that he told me, in the beginning, and always told me, but when everything got rolled with DNC, was he always told me that whatever you do, you take no back seats to nothing or nobody, and you do what you do. You don't have to worry about being better than anybody else. You be you, and you live. You give God the praise at the highest that you can give him. So that's the one thing that I take with me and keep with me to help me in those, I'm gonna say, those dark times. So that's about the difference. The difference.
I wanted to share something. I would say one of the things that, based on the question, that I could say that I had to kind of deal with is accepting the gift, accepting accepting the talent, accepting the ability. That was a little challenging for me at first, because in my head I'm like, this is what you want me to do? And it's kind of like, okay, you will keep seeing I've gifted you in this area, and you see it, and you see the manifestation of and the fruit of it, but it's like, is this really what you want me to do? But it's like, it's there. What else you need me to do to tell you that this is what I gave you to use in the earth, if that makes sense? So it was like having a little bit of challenge, accepting that, okay, this is what you want me to do. All right. So that was, for me, that was a little bit challenging for me, just accepting it. Hey, I gave you these gifts, and I want you to accept what I give you and run with it. So yeah.
And that's what a lot of us, I think that's what a lot of us is, accepting what he gives us. And here's the thing, we done prayed for this. Now we just have to accept it of what we prayed for. So that's the major thing. Anyone else want to answer that question? What is the hardest thing about being an artist?
The hardest thing for me about being an artist, my fear was being liked. Whether they was gonna like me, love me, and as they say, accept the style of music that I bring to the table. Because we all don't do the runs alike. We all don't have the same style of music. We don't have the same musicians that play the same styles. So will you like what I bring to the table? Even though it is my ministry, and I was always taught, whatever you do for God, let it be real. But we as people have a tendency to form cliques, and I hate to say it that way, but that's what it is, to form cliques and put people in different categories, to say, I'm gonna put you over here because you are right, or I'm gonna put you on this side because you fit in with us. Your music kicking, it's slamming. You can, as they say now, you can dump the house and stuff like that. But that was my fear of being liked and also being accepted as an artist.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll tap back in. One thing that I struggled with in the beginning of my walk was removing my flesh out the way. We all artists, and we all got a gift, we all got talent, we know how to use it. But it's that moment when you get out of ministering and you start operating in your flesh, like the praise, and when you see them engaging you. And to avoid that, to fight that, I have always had to, like, before I minister, tell God, let it be more of you and less of me. Like, remove me out of the way so that I can just minister to your people. Because I don't want to get caught up in the claps and the hands and the waving, and then I miss the opportunity to minister to God's people.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
I think for me, it's been doing business right. I've always been one of those artists, and this is my testimony. I've been one of those artists that makes music, but I make it for me. Like, I really hadn't really pushed it or, put money in. I put capital in when it comes to the front end. I want the best beat. I want the studio. I want it to sound good. But then when it comes to marketing and making sure that, the business side is tied up and tied in, I really wasn't doing that. And amazingly, like, when I actually did it this time, all of this kind of just fit together like a puzzle. So, I'm just grateful to God that he gave me the, wherewithal to actually follow through with the whole process. But I not even realizing that it's still parts of it that I struggle with, and I that I'm still growing and I'm still developing. But, overall, I can say it was difficult, but it was worthwhile, to actually do it. And even timeline on the project and all of those different things. It's been different. So I'm grateful to God that we're on this side now and we're moving.
Absolutely. Anyone else?
Yes. I would say the vulnerability of it, just the songs that I would write was not also like your normal worship song that you would hear in church. So I was writing more from just like the frustrating seasons, the darker seasons, and then coming out of those seasons into, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, just writing more vulnerable music that just is like speaking to that person when you're at home or in your car. I was afraid to step out on my own and write that kind of music because I felt like I always would put God in a box. Like, you only had to sing it this way. You have to say Jesus this many times in your song. Otherwise, you're not a Christian artist. And the Lord really had to deal with my heart on that. So I think that was the biggest thing. And then also the comparison. I had a lot of artist friends that were my age, younger or older even, and they were all doing it and having really good engagement, and they were getting a lot of people supporting them. And then, you know, I would look at my own stuff and I'd be like, well, why isn't mine doing, you know, as good as theirs? So putting out my first project last year, I really dealt with that a lot. I was like, it doesn't matter what that person is doing or this person's doing. My journey is going to look a totally different way than the next person's, and that's okay. Like, let that be okay. It doesn't have to blow up today. It doesn't have to blow up tomorrow. But as I continue to write and put out music, you know, whatever it's going to do, it's going to do it. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Absolutely. Kenya said this, and listen, she's another person, because I'm the same way. Investing in your marketing and branding is definitely important when it comes down to being an artist. Knowing the great rollout, it will save you a lot of hurt. And I think that's one of the things we as artists, and I can say as an artist myself, that was one of the toughest things for me, was understanding when it comes down to how to push it out correctly. Getting the word out about it, and today I will always tell artists, always promote your project. You are a new artist in a new city. There are over 1 million and some people around this world that you need to promote your project to. Don't just promote it to your family. Yes, your family may support it. They may not support it. Your church family. But do you all know that there are people that live in Mexico that love God just as well as we do? There are people in Jamaica. There are people in United Kingdom. And there are people even in China that love God for real. So we have to really promote it. Again, if people don't buy our music here, or your family, your friends, your church don't buy your music, it is A-okay. There are 1,400 people around this world, 1 million and some people around this world else that will buy your music. So definitely continue pushing your project. Those new artists, again, I want to go around. We're going to do this. I want, if you all can remember, because I can't remember off the top of my head, your categories that you all are nominated for.